Yeah, Rich is hey, Rich. No, I haven't heard from him since. I'm just waiting for the thumbs up from Nancy.
Rich took the action item on getting the historic committee? All right, good to know.
What did I do?
Rich,
You're gonna get the historic district committee up and running, right? The new...
I think that was the capital planning committee I committed to.
No, Mike Goddard just said that you volunteered.
we'll get one live right now.
Sorry,
We all set?
I'm already up.
All right, welcome to the April 9th, 2018 Board of Selectmen's meeting. Please join me in the opening pledge.
Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, let's see, citizen statements and petitions. Any? Seeing none, hearing none. Correspondence to the board. Any correspondence to the board, Laura?
No.
No correspondence to the board. Renew seasonal licenses. So it looks like we have two of them. So I'll take some motions, Mark.
I move to renew seasonal license for Sean Lambert, S&C Flowers, 1 Cape Road, and the Mendon Driving Range at 32 Hastings Street, pending receipt of positive routing slips.
Sorry, I only heard one. Did you say two names there, Mark?
Yeah.
What was the two names again?
Mendon Driving Range and Sean Lambert, S&C Flowers.
Okay, great. Second?
Okay, I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the meeting. We have Selectman Schofield remoting in. He's in Washington DC, so we've agreed to allow him to do that. So I apologize for not doing that earlier, but it doesn't look like anybody would oppose to that anyways. So discussion on that. There's obviously, they've been in business for a lot of years with us, and this is just a normal every year renewal. So I can't see any reason why we wouldn't want to move forward with that. Mark?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, Richard, good?
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Real eye.
All right. Very good. Very good. Let's see, the EDC update. So we'll have Tom come on up and give us an update on the EDC. Rich, can you hear well?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, good.
How's it going? I just wanted to give you guys an update on what we've been doing and what we're hoping to do, and ask for some money to do it.
Everybody's looking for money.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have any.
We've been involved in a few projects. One thing you're trying to do is reach out to the agricultural committee to look into trying to get a co-op started in town. We really liked what happened with the farm to table stuff for the 350th, and think it might be something that would both create some economic growth in Mendon, as well as be in character with Mendon being an agricultural community. So that's one thing we want to reach out to them and possibly get some ideas going and really go in that direction.
So what would the purpose of the conversation when you're working with the agricultural?
Well, just their thoughts, really how we could implement it, how we could...
How
really,
a co-op would work. And
how it would work, it's just, we're brainstorming, you know.
Okay. Yep.
Something else we've been doing, we've actually been working with Bill Ambrosino, because right now we have a more fact-finding moratorium for cannabis businesses. We've been doing some fact-finding on our own. We actually toured the Pro Verde plant, or Pro Verde facility in Milford. What we found was a very high-tech facility, employed a lot of people in highly skilled jobs, but what we really want to do is get all perspectives and all views on this, and hopefully come back with a real rundown of what we found, so that we're not going into this blind. And in hopes that we can kind of present to you and the town really what we found looking into this industry. Because we do think it could possibly be a source of revenue for the town, but we wouldn't want to just go with it. We want to do it in a smart manner.
Okay.
And the third big thing we want to do, and this is where the asking for money comes in, we're hoping to get a survey of Mendon businesses in hopes we can find a direction. Really, we want to find out is how businesses feel that the town of Mendon could encourage more business growth in Mendon, what they feel, how they feel the town of Mendon could support them better. And in the process, we're going to be highlighting a business every month on our Facebook page and our page on the website. So we're going to be sending a survey out, which would cost postage, and I was hoping for $300 for postage to reach every business in town.
Have you, I'm fine with that, but have you talked to Jean Hebert at all about, maybe is there anything they can do to help with that?
This is something I want to pursue on my own, or on our own, and our hopes are to, CMRPC is another, we're working with Bill Ambrosino too, and he's reaching out to CMRPC, and hoping we could do more follow-ups at their expense, but the timeline of getting either of those organizations involved would be farther out, or more far out than we'd like. So we're hoping to get something rolling now and hope to follow up with it later and get them involved, possibly at the cost of those organizations.
Okay. Yeah. You got $300 you can give them?
I do. We have money within the selectmen's budget and within town hall. Just for some clarification, EDC had come before me during the budget process and asked for a specific line item to be created for boards. We don't currently have that for boards. We don't. So what I've told him is, because we're doing level service, that we would find these types of things within our budget if we had them. So when they have requests, they should just come and see us, and we will find $300 or more if they need it.
Fantastic. Well, listen, I'm in support of having you guys do your survey. I appreciate all the work you guys are doing on this. Clearly, this is an important piece of business within our community. I'm thrilled that the Economic Development Committee is up and running. You guys are really starting to deliberate and have some great ideas, or at least a forward-looking direction for the community. Clearly, finding revenue sources, putting businesses in town creates revenue sources, which keeps our tax rate down, right? So that's the goal.
Absolutely.
Really, I commend you guys for doing that, and I look forward to future updates on that. Mark?
That's great, thank you.
Yeah. Anything else, Tom, on that?
We've also been looking into, really looking at the town land. I know that Ann Mazar has some RFPs on some land that she's looking into developing with, I think, the Land Use Committee and the EDC. They're kind of going to collaborate.
Okay, cool.
And then I think that was actually bought to be a house lot, if I'm
You talk about Inman Hill?
Inman Hill. So that is the parcel that we're talking about trying to sell off and really get some money for the town. So
Okay.
in the short term.
Okay. Very
And you
good.
guys
Anything
are
else?
always invited to come by, and we usually meet an hour before you. So
Okay, great. Rich, you have anything to add?
Yeah, a quick question. I'm wondering, are we having a full complement to 7 folks on this committee right now?
we have a vacant space, and we're going to be advertising it on our Facebook page and on the website, and hope that we can get somebody to apply. And we would love, if you know anybody that would be interested, I would love to have them sent my way.
Mr. Burke, I didn't get the number.
Just one they're looking for, Rich.
Looking for one, okay.
Okay. Anything else, Rich?
I'm good.
Okay.
All right.
Great. Thanks, Tom.
Thank
Appreciate
you
the
guys
update.
so much.
All right. Have a good night. Okay, let's see. Discuss late fees for dog licensing. Looks like we have a couple of folks here who want to talk about dog licensing and late fees. So we have the chief, and who are you, sir?
My name is Kevin Sullivan. I'm the Regional Animal Control Officer.
Okay, hi Kevin. I've heard your name, I've just never met you before.
Hi there. How are you?
Good, good, thanks. So why don't you give us an overview of what we're discussing here?
So basically what happened is typically when we come in, what I've been doing is I've been going town to town trying to get the towns updated with their dog licensing. A lot of the towns were lacking on the dog licensing and losing quite a bit of revenue. So in doing this, going through the Mendon Town bylaw, it's slightly confusing. Only because there's fines and fees listed everywhere and they don't counteract each other. So I was hoping to get the selectmen's approval on what they would like to have happen. So under the town bylaw, animal control bylaw starts at section 7, and I believe it goes up through section 15 under the town bylaw. So within the licensing portion of it, it says that there is just under the town bylaw, so there's a $25 for initial handling and pickup if I get a call for a dog. Okay, so the question I had for about that is if you then move on to section 13 where it lists penalties. So for instance, unlicensed, unleashed, unvaccinated, it says in here, the owner or keeper of a dog shall fail to comply with any order of the animal control officer or selectman issued pursuant to this chapter shall be punished by a fine of $50 with the right to appeal at district court. And that's in section 13. Right after that, in section 14, it says whoever violates any provision of this bylaw be penalized by a non-criminal disposition as provided in Mass General Law, section 40, section 21D. For the purpose of this bylaw, the animal control officer and all men and police officers shall be designated enforcing persons. Each day in which any violation of this bylaw shall be deemed to be separate offense, subject to the following penalties. And then it gives a first, second, and third, which is $10, $25, and $50. So my question for you is, am I supposed to be combining these? Am I charging $25 when I pick up a dog? And then I'm charging another $50 for not in control of your dog, and then I'm doing a first, second, and third offense for another $10, $20, or $50? Or are we breaking it down and I'm supposed to be doing just the strict $50 per offense? Or are we breaking it down to where I am actually following the first, second, and third? Because right now it's kind of leaves a lot open to interpretation, and I just don't want to have the board's approval for what they would like me to do.
So, you just highlighted the elephant in the room, and that's basically, there's a lot of interpretation.
Yes.
I have no idea what the answer is on that, to be honest with you.
And we haven't, before Kevin, we weren't doing anything. So we had a regional officer who just didn't fine or really do anything at all. She charged the in-pound fees, right? And that's about it.
Actually didn't even go to the town. We now finally have a regional agreement, and through our regional agreement with Uxbridge, all Mendon dogs now go to the Blackstone Regional Animal Shelter. So through that, the storage fee for any Mendon resident of dogs is $25 per calendar day.
Okay.
Which is listed in the bylaw that they'd have to cover the storage fee, but then it also lists an additional handling fee. So the $25 per storage day goes to the town of Blackstone because it's their facility.
Sure, to be expected.
But like I said, in section 9, it says I'm supposed to charge $25 for initial handling and pickup. So is it $25 and then another $50 for not in control, and then another, like I said, 10 for their first offense, 25 for the second offense?
I mean, that's what it sounds like.
Offense.
That's what it sounds
That's what
like.
it does sound like to me as well. I guess my big thing is with licensing, when we actually go to start enforcing the dog licensing, when we're going to send out an initial letter. So is my initial, well, first of all, so the town clerk already sent out an initial letter with the town census. So is that our first offense? And then when I send out my second offense, my second letter to remind them to license, is that my second offense? Or, and then from there, when I go to issue the fines, am I treating that as a third offense and charging another $50?
Well, when
The only thing I would say with that is I did think about it since you talked to me, because it's an offense. So the letters you're sending out aren't violations of an offense. The offense would take place the day after they're not registered.
So they're
You know what I
supposed to, so they're supposed to be registered by, I believe it's May 1st. So
the clerk's letter is informing them
So the
that they
clerk's
didn't meet that
letter-
obligation.
yeah, so they're
That's an
reminding.
offense.
No, the first, the
Yeah, but it's not an
letter,
offense. They haven't committed the offense yet. It's
yeah,
just
the
a
first
notice.
thing that's sent to
It's
the
kind of like the
census
registry
is a
sending you 5
reminder.
letters that you
It's a
need to renew
reminder.
your license, renew it.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me try to clarify what I heard, and then we'll go there.
Yeah,
What I heard was the clerk sends out a letter after somebody hasn't complied.
No, she sends it with the census.
she sends it with the.
Oh,
census.
she sends it with the
So
census,
she
then
sends it
that's
with
not
the-
an offense.
So she sends it with the census, and then from there, I'll be sending out another letter.
It's when somebody is not in compliance
Yeah,
is
so I'll be
is an
sending out a letter
offense.
letting them know they're not in compliance, so we're gonna be issuing citations, giving them the benefit of the doubt. So am I treating that as offense number one?
I would, because they've only been warned that if they don't comply,
Yes.
then they're gonna be at risk of receiving a fine.
Okay.
Okay, so, but once that date is now come, say May 1st, they're supposed to be licensed,
Yep.
and they don't comply, now they're in, now they're in offense.
Okay.
Do you see
And
what I'm
then,
saying? Right, chief? Would you agree with that?
So I would, does it say how many days you give in between? So like after May 1st, if they're not registered, you give them a letter instantly. Hey,
I mean,
this is your first offense. If you don't do it by this day, now you're gonna get a second letter, you're gonna get your second offense, and then you're gonna get your third offense.
well, according to this, each day on which any violation of this bylaw occurs shall be deemed a separate offense.
Sounds like we gotta clean up the bylaw a little bit, because
Yeah.
there's some,
My hope is to actually get the bylaw completely redone in the
yeah,
near future.
okay.
Especially even with, leading up to, in Blackstone, we offer 1, 2, and 3 year licenses
Yeah.
in order to make the, hunt for licensing a little bit less and offer, a discount to the community
Sure.
since with, the rabies protocol.
It sounded to me that, I think we all kind of agreed on the way it should go, is that, in respect to the late fees, in my opinion, after they are now not in compliance, so as of May 2nd, in my opinion, they're not in compliance. They've been informed that they need to be in compliance by that date, including my wife, has to be in compliance by that date.
Yep.
And then after that, if we fail to license our dog, now we're not in compliance, just like the registry, if we fail to go and get our renewals done or whatever it is, then we're not in compliance.
Okay.
So I would look at it that way. Would you look at it that way, Mark?
So, and then from there, when it actually comes time, let's say June 1st, if we go to send out citations, am I doing $50 because of section 9, another $50 because of section 13, and then another $25 because of section 14?
For not having, well, the other sections are just if you pick them up, right? That is nothing
Yeah.
to do with that.
This actually, for section 13, any owner or keeper dog shall fail to order animal control officer pursuant with chapter. So this says anything within this chapter is $50.
Well, no, not that chapter, the chapter of actually MGL, so you get a list of Mass General Laws. That has nothing to do with the bylaws. MGL, Mass General Laws.
I think that's just where the fines are listed, but if you actually, any owner or keeper of a dog shall fail to comply with any order of the animal control or selectman issued pursuant to this chapter. So I think it's the chapter, it just means the general bylaw, this chapter. This says where are the actual fines coming from. Because then, when you come back, in section 912, this right here, whoever violates Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 137, 137A, or 137B, this is failure to license and failure to vaccinate.
We probably should redo this bylaw, have him sit with Bill Ambrosino and.
You just have to decide to enforce it as written.
Well, that's a general bylaw, so we don't need to
Okay.
do Bill, but
Okay, but
Just
just
seems some redundancy in it. I mean, these are our residents. I don't want to be hiking them up and saying, hey, you forgot to register your dog, you're on vacation, and you come back and you have a $120 fine, for your
Yeah.
dog.
Right.
Well, listen, it certainly needs to be redone, but, I don't know enough about it, so I could say, this is a bylaw that the town accepted in whatever town meeting years and years ago.
I would say go on the caution leniency. I mean, they are.
so what is the tiered one, first,
all
second,
residents.
third? What does it
So-
say before that?
So there's under the section 14, there's a first, second, and third offense, which is 10, 25, 50. But then, like I said, under section 9, it says for unvaccinated or unlicensed, it's $50 per offense.
Oh, well, that, to me, is, if you don't license them, it's $50, fine.
Okay,
Says it
so,
very
I think that's pretty clear on a,
Don't you think that it's more if your dog gets loose, they pick it up, they find out it's unlicensed, not that they just didn't go to the process
Yeah, that's what I
of
was
getting
thinking. Like,
licensed?
you
I
pick 'em
mean,
up and that's
you
the thing.
send out the letter reminding residents that they should license their dog, and the letter specifies, listen, if we pick up your dog and it's not licensed, it'll be an additional $50. Pay your $5 now to avoid this consequence later.
so the problem we run into in the past is, so typically what would happen is, we send out that letter and say, pay this $5 now rather than later. They're just gonna assume, hey, I'll roll the dice here, my dog's never gotten loose before, nothing they're gonna do.
100%.
So,
I also-
a month later, I go and I give them until a certain, typically in my other towns, I give them, a month to come in.
Yeah.
And then from there, then I go and I issue the fines. And then they have a month to come in and pay the fines and license their dog, or then chief would then send them to court.
Right.
And the other thing is the licensing, the real point of it is to ensure that the dogs are getting vaccinated for rabies. So I think we should be making sure that people are doing it, and this gives them an incentive to actually register their dog instead of just risking not, getting the dog picked up.
I would say this is my opinion. Clearly, there's a ton of work that has to be done on this bylaw, without a doubt. And I would encourage us to move quickly on it. And this is something that doesn't need to happen in an annual. This could even happen in November, as far as I'm concerned, if we could move quick enough and get the thing right and get the right rates in there and everything else. I'm not exactly sure who would push the changes to the bylaw, if that was you or Bill Ambrosino, or
Board of Selectmen,
Yes.
is it the Board of Selectmen that does it?
general bylaw.
General
We can get some
bylaw.
from the other towns we
So,
can deal with and have a template to offer. If they have pretty good bylaws, we can maybe.
I haven't done a bylaw yet, so sorry for my lack of knowledge. But for now, we have a bylaw.
And if that's what the language says about, I would focus on what it says specifically on, if you don't license your dog, this is what the fee or the fine would be.
That's specifically in section 9, and it says $50 for unlicensed, $50 for unvaccinated. So do you want me to focus on, when I'm gonna write out those citations, it's under town, Mendon, Mass Town Bylaw, section 912.
Yeah,
Yep.
So focus under that, 50 for unvaccinated, 50 for unlicensed, and I will ignore the other portions temporarily.
I would say, I think we just need to move quick, to be
Okay.
honest with you. If they're not paying the bill and they're not, and they're still not complying, then I think you're gonna have to just keep on enforcing. I don't think you're gonna have a choice at that point,
right.
that's,
I have a follow-up question. Is the $50 for the unlicensed and unvaccinated dog, we have to pay, I assume, or they must have to pay some sort of fee for the testing that gets done once the dog has been put into quarantine or some?
So unfortunately, if there is a dog bite, it's in the state of Massachusetts, it's just a 10-day in-home quarantine.
Oh.
So basically means that we have to send someone over there, which we then pay, to quarantine their dog at no expense to them, telling them they can't leave their home with the dog for a period of 10 days, and they have to keep it away from people or other animals that, other than the ones that currently reside in the home.
Right.
So there's no really repercussion to them.
And what happens
Unless-
if they can't produce the vaccination records?
Then we still just quarantine for the dog, and then we would fine them, and then make them go and
the
vaccinate the dog at the end of the 10-day quarantine.
And they have to provide the results, okay?
But the thing is, there's no results. The only way you can test an animal for rabies is by euthanizing it and
Right.
testing the brainstem. So that's why they do the 10-day quarantine, because the state has determined that any animal that's active with rabies doesn't survive past 6 days. So they give it a 10-day period, stating that if the animal was sick, it would die previous to the.
I got you. Okay. Okay. Anything else on that? We're good for now?
Good.
Okay. All right, well, thank you, and I look forward to seeing a proposal on a bylaw, I guess, unless that's
I'll work
what we
with
have to do.
Kevin on it. If you want to get all that stuff together, and we'll bring it to you.
Okay, cool.
Rich has
Try
one
to
question.
look at-
Rich, you got any questions?
Nothing for me.
Wake up, Rich.
Yeah, thank you, Rich. Forgot that you were still there.
Thank you.
Get like a max headroom box.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Gonna get a bobblehead and put it,
Right? Oh, yeah, that would be,
We'll do WebEx next time, and I can transmit my video, and you can turn me around.
there you go. Okay, moving on. So discuss the FY19 budget. So, look to you, Kim, and have you give us an update.
okay, so here is the budget as you currently voted on it approximately a week ago, 2 weeks ago now, okay? So I would like to request that you reconsider one of my previous budget requests. When I initially submitted the budget to you first time around, I had asked for $120,000 in the reserve for salary negotiations. And I know that you are aware that we have both internal and external negotiations going on. In addition to just our 5 unions, we also have to negotiate with our department heads this year. And I'm concerned, you know, initially I thought, well, that's fine, by the time we're done negotiating, we could put something on in November at the STM and that will cover everything. But based on the variety of proposals that we may be putting forward and the dollar amounts that are related to those proposals and the snow and ice year that we are having, I'm concerned about the availability of free cash at that meeting to really fulfill these contractual obligations that I am trying to get on behalf of the town. So I would like to request that we take whatever excess levy capacity that we have still available and put it in the reserve for negotiations. With the caveat, of course, that if we do not need it, we will leave it there and it will roll to free cash and it will just return to where it came. That is my request.
Okay. Anybody have any comments on that? Rich, you have any comments on that?
No, I just think it's important that anybody listening or whatever just understands that this doesn't again signal any decision, because we know from the extensive work we did last week, which we included the fire department in and did quite a bit of work all around for a variety of people to see what kinds of dollars we were looking at to solve the problem with the multitude of solutions that we have available to us. So I just want to make sure that's clear.
Well, I took this upon as, you know, the reason and purpose why we want to do this is, Rich, although good points, is, you know, we have a series of contract negotiations coming up. We've just spent a lot of money in snow and ice coming up, and we're not exactly sure if free cash is going to be able to cover you know, our obligations after contract negotiations going forward. So, you know, all good points. I would say that if, you know, really that's the driving force on that, then I could agree with that, knowing the fact that if we don't spend it, then it'll end up going back into free cash in the future. Mark?
Yeah, I think we need to make this move, so.
Well, did I misunderstand where we want to put it?
Contract negotiations.
Okay, so if it's in contract negotiations, not in FinCom reserve, it's not in an easy spot to pay for the other things we talked about. So, which is fine. I mean, I don't care where we put it. We know that we need to capture it for all of the above reasons.
It's in the FinCom's budget under, it would be in reserve for negotiations.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. The only point I'm making is obviously there's a specific purpose for that line, right? So that if we wanted to use it to pay for snow and ice or whatever, we're gonna have to make another move before we can pay for it, depending upon what time of year it happens, right?
Correct.
Yep. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, unfortunately, we've worked really hard as a board. I think everybody knows that we've worked really hard as a board probably for the last 5 years, of really focusing on the town's finances and taking an approach of prioritizing our needs and a strategy of really looking at creative ways to find revenue sources within the community, keeping the taxes down within the community, and we haven't been taxing up to the levy limit, et cetera. I'm really proud of that because that hasn't been an easy task. Fortunately, the community has really benefited from that, in my opinion, over the last 3 years. And clearly, there's a lot of businesses still going on in town, and we need to move things forward. So, in this case, I think that's a good buffer, and a good place to put it would be in reserve for negotiations, knowing that, we're going to have to fill that void somewhere or another. Mark?
Yeah, I would say that, we have a long list of wants, and we've been able to chip away at that list while not taxing to the full 2.5%, which I think has been quite successful. So, there just gets to some points where you gotta, use the limit, and
Hopefully we won't
yeah,
need to,
right.
but
That
we
doesn't
need
mean we're going to,
the
but
option in case we
need the
do.
option available.
Yep.
So I think you need to make a motion to vote on this budget as amended, so with the change, and then because the FinCom, the budget
Second.
hearing is on Wednesday.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? We have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Real eye.
Field eye?
Burke, aye. Okay.
You?
Alrighty, so with that being said, any other topics not reasonably anticipated within 48 hours, Laura? No? Anybody else? All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right,
Second.
all in favor?
Field eye?
Burke, aye.
Real eye.
All right, thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.